Okay, babe.
Okay, ready?
10 minutes in here.
Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. It's time to go to war. All right. We've crafted a show here called Album Wars. If you haven't, this is the third one in this year. We did January, we did February, now we're in March. Every month we send out a war decree to the panelists, and we ask them to reveal 5 albums based on said war decree. And then we whittle those piles of albums that duplicate and put them into different brackets, and then we'll fight to the death on all those. So that's right, there will be blood. Music blood will be spilt. Hell, probably one of the albums here has blood in the title. Anyway,
Maybe.
so they'll reveal their albums. They'll score points for being selected. Example: if they select that album and so does somebody else, that's 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, and it moves on, so and so forth. Those will move into the top 8. Then the top 8 will battle till they down to the final one. So, then the winner goes on to the final war at the end of the year in December. We'll fight the other 11 winners and the 12th, which is the wild card that will come from Album Listen Challenge. Whoever scores the greatest average. And right now, that still remains Ava Carboni's Blue Siren. But this month, it could get derailed. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so the album war decree was 1975.
It's a good year.
A great year in music. Many, many, many great albums. The war will be long and it will be fought on a musical playing field of mass proportions. But let's talk about 1975 for a second.
Okay.
All right? The fall of Saigon. What, Saigon Kick? No, Saigon. Lee Elder became the first African-American golfer on the PGA Masters. That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Saturday Night Live premiered on NBC.
Mhm.
Jaws screwed all beach dwelling for years to come. A dozen eggs were 77 cents.
I love it.
Let's not talk about that at all. The average income was $14,100. That's what a high schooler makes now, working 15 hours a week. Yeah, something's messed up in our world, but let's just keep going the way we're going. And of course, the Antichrist of all was born, Microsoft.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Windows 10 is dead now. Windows 11. Oh, can't wait to fix every computer I have. All right.
He said lovingly.
On the show tonight, he knows that Jane is an ignorant slut. Jeff Young. She's got her first Rubik's Cube still and has never solved it to this day. Damn! Deb Armitage Hicks Maloney.
You are right.
That's right. She's still wondering who the fuck Captain and Tennille is. Which one's which? I don't even know.
Love will keep us together.
Yeah, Sue Kulagowski, Susie Q on the channel.
Muskrat love.
Yeah, yeah. And if Alex was here, he's still wondering if Henry Ford was related to Gerald Ford. Anyway. The comedic portion of our show will now end because it's time for war.
Here we go.
All right. So this particular one, the gentlemen who have been on the program for this sent theirs in because they had other goings on. So I will allow theirs to be read. So we will start with Damn.
Oh, I get to go first?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to name all 5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And obviously, it has no bearing on what I think their ranking should be because the war will ensue as soon as we get all of ours read, right? So I don't have to put them in any order.
No, you don't, but it would be cool if you did.
Okay.
Please, man.
All right.
They'll always be at least in the order of first to last.
Oh, I'll try that at least. Okay. So my number 5, much to Mark's dismay, but we did rank our favorite live albums, or we talked about live albums, I think, at one point. And we said that this particular band's live album in 1974 was really super bad. But this album that came out in 1975 by Fleetwood Mac, self-titled, was awesome. Monday Morning, Rhiannon, that just let us know exactly what Stevie's voice was all about. World Turning, Say You Love Me, and my mantra song that every time I hear this, no matter where I am in my life, I come back to it and go, yes, Landslide. That just sums up life for me. So that's my number 5. I don't think it'll make it through the war, but I wanted to give it at least a battle.
Certainly not going to win in a landslide.
No, it's not. Ha. Oh, okay. Now I'm on my next one. All right. Number 4 is this was a refreshing album for me because there was a lot of piano in it, and I was loving Elton John and Billy Joel at the time, but I was starting to like heavier rock in that. And then saxophone was in it. And I'm a band nerd. And for anybody that can make a saxophone cool in 1975, that would have been Clarence Clemens and Born to Run and Bruce Springsteen. And title track was great. Thunder Road, 10th Avenue Freeze Out, Jungleland. It introduced me to Bruce Springsteen. He wasn't the kind of singer that I was really listening to at the time, but I love that album. My number 3, now we did a show last week, most disappointing albums, and this band was on my list. And it's particularly because I really loved this album that made this other album disappointing. But this album and this band, I think actually was middle school sex ed for me. Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic, Big 10-inch. Walk This Way is definitely middle school in the hallway, and boys and girls and everything else. So that's my number 3. Now, my number 2, it should be higher, but it can't be in this war because of what is number 1 on my list. But my number 2 is I love this band. Actually, one of their albums was on my most disappointing list as well. And partly because I love this album, Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. Only 5 songs. Don't need any more than that, I have to say.
3 of them are the same.
And they are. Shine On Your Crazy Diamond, Welcome to the Machine, Have a Cigar, and my favorite karaoke song, Wish You Were Here, and one of the best lines in music, we are all just a lost soul swimming in a fishbowl. Like on this show.
Years after.
And my number 1.
Number 1.
Oh, there is not a throwaway song on this album, in my opinion. And this is another education in sex, because it's Led Zeppelin, of course. And when they name their songs Custard Pie and the Sorts, you're in for something. And there's Honky Tonk on here. There's Kathmandu with Kashmir. There's blues. Every song is awesome. And I have to say, the one song that's on here that has no lyrics, I'm not sure how to say it, Mark.
I don't even.
Yeah. I think Kansas really stole some acoustics off of that and wrote Dust with the Wind 2 years later. So that's my 5 right there.
I think basically they were drunk one night and the guy, what do you call the song? But yeah, that sounds great, man. It's great. It's great.
They were at the pub. They were at the pub for sure.
We were gonna call it what we worked on after a pint, but it didn't work out. All right, so we'll take an interlude to get Ray, and I'll try to do it in my best radio.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
Let's go, Ray.
My number 5 is Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. Dylan's best. That's some 12 to 13 years into a career that has him regarded as one of the best songwriters ever. He's far from best vocalist ever, but his stylings, delivery are unique in anything. Tangled Up in Blue, Shelter from the Storm, tremendous tracks. This album was so unlike anything that year and still great to sit back and listen to and not be one of those whiny Dylan records that have been out there over the years. My number 4, Toys in the Attic, Aerosmith. One of the
Great.
top 5 rock bands of all time with what is likely their greatest ever release single. Tyler and Perry and the boys were at their finest on this release. Walk This Way, Sweet Emotion are 2 classic rock's greatest ever tracks. The rest of the album is so well-rounded, and these bad boys from Boston put out a hard rock masterpiece. Number 3, It Was One of Those Nights. Those crazy nights. The Eagles, their prior 3 albums showcased the country rock stylings of this Southern California band. This 75 release was the one that made the band international superstars. The title track, Take It to the Limit, Lion Eyes were monster hits. Styling, musicianship, harmonies, melodies, wonderful, and have lasted 50 years.
I had to listen to Lion Eyes like 8 times a day when I was managing an ice cream stand at Darien Lake. When it was
I'm sorry.
And
So
it was
now you
good
hate
like
it.
the first 20 times, but after that I was just sick of it. I mean, it's still a great song.
But still, I hear you.
Some PTSD on that song.
Damn. Fleetwood Mac, you're correct. This was the first record, Lindsay and Stevie. This became a whole new band from that point on. Mac and Mick were part of it. The new kids brought so much to this. Their vocal combined with the beautiful voice of Christy McVie were something to behold. It was beautifully creative, and you can now see and hear how this was setting up one of the greatest releases ever, which was their album to follow. And my number 1, again, Dan put it the best, Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen. Bruce had a ride with this release. His prior release had stood up well for his fans, but not enough for the record companies. This one came out and everything changed. The now iconic quote from John Landau has stood out for 50 years. I saw something else. I saw rock and roll future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen. The tracks, particularly the title Thunder Road and Jungle Land, just never seem to age. They sound as fresh in 25 as they did in 75. He had some great releases after this one, but none measure up to this greatness.
Good job.
Well, that was Ray's. I don't know. Pretty predictable if you ask me. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Over to you, Mr. Young.
All right. Well, not necessarily in a ranking or who I think was the best, but my favorites of this era because I was only 3 at this time. So I'm going with
He was rocking
Physical
out.
Graffiti by Led Zeppelin, the double album, originally intended to be a single side or a single disc, but then it was a double album and they added some sessions from Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4, and Houses of Holy that were previously unreleased.
Yeah, one of them being the actual name of the 2-year album.
Yeah, I know.
It's still one of the weirdest things ever.
It is weird. I agree. It's always been confusing to me.
Houses of the
Holy.
But that was probably one of the first.
You don't know why it wasn't on that.
Kind of like same with Black Sabbath for me, like with Led Zeppelin, I kind of just was like, oh, Zeppelin's awesome. I'm going to buy everything they have and listen to it all. And this is probably one of the first ones I bought. But next I went with Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, the 9th album. Kind of tough to follow Dark Side of the Moon. And I think that's probably why I read that they said that maybe why it was kind of like, even though it had critical acclaim, everyone was comparing it to Dark Side of the Moon, but it's still very good. I mean, obviously, some pretty well-known tracks like Have a Cigar, Welcome to the Machine is my favorite off that album. Then I'm going with Hair of the Dog by Nazareth, their 6th album.
Nice.
I almost picked that one.
It's their first hit album, and obviously Love Hurts by the Everly Brothers is still played everywhere today.
Yeah.
And Hair of the Dog is the title track, which is really good. Then I went with Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith, their 3rd album. Sweet Emotion, of course, and Walk This Way, as you said, were on there. And obviously redone a few years later with Run DMC. And then I went with Sabotage from Black Sabbath, their 6th album. My personal favorite on that is Symptom of the Universe. I feel like it was just kind of ahead of its time. And just it's one I can listen to all the way through.
Oh.
Well, thank you, Mr. Young. All right. Hair of the Dog, baby. It was on my list. Just, oh, man. Great album. Kind of reminds me of another band that's on that list, too. Okay. So, we will now pause again for an interlude. And this one comes courtesy of Jeff Crichton, the music seller extraordinaire. His number 5 is Katie Lied by Steely Dan.
Yeah, that's a good
Was there no Joni Mitchell album that year?
Yes, there was. It didn't make the list. I believe it was the one about something cutting grass, or I don't remember.
growing grass.
I can't remember the title. I'm sorry. The music multiverse.
Oh no.
Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon at numero 4.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Ruh-roh. Numero 3, he's got Born to Run by Bruce.
Of course he does.
And then his number 2, Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin. And his number 1
Pretty good.
is Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Susie Q.
All righty. Well, so first of all, I was also a little person when these albums came out. In a lot of cases, I really didn't get to hear them until a few years later. In some cases, many years later. But when I was looking, I just have to shout this person out because I really wanted to include a female. And I wasn't able to. Not that the females' albums were bad, I just not familiar with them, so I didn't choose them. But Donna Summer came up for Bad Girls, but then I realized it was 1979. But I'm just saying it's a really good album. So,
A little bit thought for 4 years.
Yeah. So also, I missed the Paul Simon album. I didn't see that. That might have made my list. So I'm starting out with Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. I think, everybody's talked about it. I've just always appreciated they're unique and they just bring something new and different sounds. So, and I guess at that time too, I mean, the music industry was changing. There were so many things coming in at one time. So they managed to find something unique even during that time, which is kind of cool. My number 4, I went with Toys in the Attic. Again, the classics, they're still classic.
Oh, for sure.
Interesting to go back and listen to it again and how raw and like almost deconstructed the sound is compared to all the remastered and produced that came out since that time. That's my number 4. I went with Physical Graffiti for number 3. This one I definitely didn't hear probably until, I don't think I heard it until I was in like my tweens.
Probably.
Loved it. I heard this a lot when I was in the drum corps on the bus going to parades, for sure. And that's when I started to get into all that kind of classic rock. My number 2, One of These Nights. Really a masterpiece. I love it. What did we see them, Mark, in 2019?
Yeah, probably.
Obviously not all the same people, but just incredible lyrics, incredible sound.
One of These Nights, Eagles.
One of These Nights.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, surprise, surprise, I went also with Born to Run. Definitely a forever great album. Jungle Land really made me just want to play the piano. So many good songs on that album. And I know we've talked about this before, but I think I feel the same way about Bruce that I do Melissa Etheridge, and that I loved him in the beginning. because they were really letting out, well, I felt like maybe they weren't, I don't know, their personality, and it was just like raw and emotion and sweat. And then they went more commercial, which I understand you have to do at some point, but yeah. So that's my 5.
Cool.
All right. All right. So we have no interlude.
Sorry, Paul Simon.
He's deeply offended, I'm sure. So here's what I noticed in doing this. Every one of the albums in the grand scheme of this year that's in there, each of them has some ridiculously grandiose #1 multiple times song that just is endless in the catalog usage. That goes from Zeppelin all the way down to even bands like I don't know, Nazareth, for that matter.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a good one.
Okay. So what I tried to do was go track by track, as if they were every one of those were battles, and then the one would win the war. It's not kind of fair because "Wish You Were Here" only has 3 tracks on it, really, because it has, you know, "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," and then at the end they thought, how about some more "Shine On Crazy Diamond"? So I love that album, but it's gonna make it anyway, so I don't put it on there. All right, the Eagles, "One of These Nights." That's another one with multiple hits, and it fell just off the radar, and it's because there's one really whiny song on there I can't stand.
Wow.
And sorry, and I can't give Don Henley the satisfaction. All the bands that I would have picked, obviously when I do the show I lose heavily.
Yeah, you do.
I do. I just do, right? Because I'm the oddball.
You can't help it.
Apparently. All right. So my #5 is Jeff Beck, "Blow by Blow." I don't know how the second greatest guitarist in the history of the world doesn't get on a list of the greatest down. But hey, it was early on, so it's a ridiculously good record. I did not discover it until a couple of years ago. Really, my love for it. I had love for other albums, but that one is my
That's
number.
the 70s, man. You don't realize you're in the 70s till the day you die.
Never truer words were spoken. Preach, brother, preach. All right, so my #4 is actually on the list. That's Bob Dylan's "Blood on the Tracks." It is something to behold that in a 12th album you're still slaying it, and if we go into the future, there are a couple there that would be on that list too. Still, I mean, they say, well, once you turn 40, right? Maybe that's why we only have 18 watchers. Anyway, I'm over the hill. So that's my #4. My #3, I thought I would join the masses happily, that I would relent and it would happen, and I would finally have an album on the list that I could root for. Queen's "Night at the Opera." But no, I'm gonna be the only one.
Sorry.
But as I look back on that album, "Bohemian Rhapsody," and I don't even remember the rest. So,
It was on my list originally, and I took it off.
and I kind of feel bad. I should have thrown one out to the tubes, maybe. I don't know. That way,
I don't feel bad.
My #2 and #1, their albums are the same. What? That's impossible when I tell you who the 2 are. But it's true. The one has this song that is just timeless. I can listen to it. They can reimagine it. They can reimagine it again, and someone else can play and reimagine it. And this other album has the exact same type of song, that it can be played acoustically, electrically, electrified, mummified. It can be done by other artists. It can be done by the entire country of Canada, and it would still get to my ear. So, what are the positions of these 2 albums, and what are the 2 albums?
Don't
Because
know.
both of them, I believe, had these songs where you're like, wow, that's kind of cool. Because people were not doing what they were doing. And Led Zeppelin and Neil Young. Neil Young's guitar tone, completely out of left field, nowhere near where the 70s are at this point in 75.
Yeah,
But
you're
here's
right.
Cortez the Killer.
Mhm.
That is a monster song that just continues to grow, become, morph. It's been done by all kinds of people. And then there's Kashmir. Man. Right.
It's the
And then
best
both
ever
of these
song of
albums
all
have all kinds of other songs that flow in and out of weirdness that are not even close to those songs, yet still
Right.
cool and emulations and stuff. All right. Well, I can never give Led Zeppelin in first place because Neil Young is near and dear to my heart in music. That again, just near and dear to my heart in music. Let's clarify that.
Okay.
So my number 2 is Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti by a smidge, and Neil Young's Crazy Horse Zuma, which has Cortez the Killer on it and a bunch of other fantastic. Also, Neil Young released Tonight's the Night that night. That album came out as well, but I felt that not as strong as Zuma for sure. Against Toys in the Attic. All right, so here's how it breaks down after our round. Physical Graffiti had the highest score. They will go against the lowest score on in the one bracket. That'll be one of these nights. Also in that bracket, Born to Run was the number 2 seed. It will go up against Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan as the 3 seed. On the other bracket side, the number 1 was Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. The number 4, which is the lowest scoring album on that bracket, would be Sabotage by Black Sabbath. So it's funny how the rockers against the rockers. Number 2, I Wish You Were Here in the number 2 seed. And number 3 seed, it'll go up against Fleetwood Mac. All right. At this point, we're going to use only the panelists. I will go to the scoring of the other 2 individuals should that come to pass. Okay. So here we go.
Okay.
All
right. This is the number, what do we usually go low to high. So yeah. So number 2 seed versus number 3 seed. So it's Born to Run versus Blood on the Tracks. What say you, damn?
Born to Run.
Born to Run. Through the Queue.
BTR.
That's probably a band. Mr. Young.
To the groove.
Same.
And my vote does not count. Once again,
Bruce.
Joe can just kiss it. Physical Graffiti versus one of these nights. Mr. Young.
Zeppelin.
Sue.
Do. You
want to phone a friend? She's right there.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I'm doing the Eagles.
All right.
I know.
It's all right. It's fine.
Damn.
It's all good. Isn't this contest over?
Physical Graffiti. And I will go with Physical Graffiti. Farewell. Other side. Bracket, we'll have Wish You Were Here. Number 2 seed versus Fleetwood Mac, the number 3 seed. Damn.
Wish You Were Here.
Susie.
Wish.
Mr. Young.
Same.
And that's a landslide.
Poor Stevie.
We're here. We'll move on. And the number 1 seed, Toys in the Attic, now up against Black Sabbath, Sabotage. Mr. Young.
I don't know. It's pretty even for me, but I'd say I probably listen to more songs off Black Sabbath than Toys in the Attic. But even though Toys in the Attic songs are probably far better known, I'm going to go Black Sabbath.
All right. 1 for Black Sabbath. Sue.
I'm going with Toys, only because I don't really know the Black Sabbath album.
After the first period, we're tied. Damn.
Well, I do know the songs from both albums, and I'm going with Toys in the Attic.
Hmm.
Ooh.
Did that fall on my list? It was number 10.
Which was?
Toys in the Attic was number 12.
Hmm.
So we are tied. Now let's see if anybody has that on their honorable mentions or their list.
Bring out your dice, Jay.
Yes, number 29, Toys in the Attic.
Wow.
And I don't think Sabbath is on here. Nope. Toys by the Skin of Overtime. All right.
Okay.
So that puts us to Toys in the Attic. Will now face off against Wish You Were Here. And on the other side, we have Physical Graffiti versus Born to Run. This war was inevitable.
Yes, it was.
Cage match.
So we'll start off with Toys in the Attic versus Wish You Were Here. Let's start out with Damn.
Wish you were here.
Sue.
I'm going toys.
Woo. Mr. Young.
I mean, I could flip a coin on that one, I guess, but I guess I'll go. Toys in the Attic.
I think this is inconsequential, to be honest with you.
It doesn't matter.
Wish You Were Here will be my choice. It did score higher on my list.
It's just a matter of record.
And since that's a tie, we'll go to
In case there's an arbitration down the road.
Wish You Were Here is on Mr. On Ray's as an
Ray
honorable mention, and
Captain
yes,
says
Wish
shoot.
You Were Here. We'll get the other two. So Wish You Were Here. We'll move on to the final bracket. Physical Graffiti versus Born to Run. Mr. Young.
Zeppelin.
Sue.
Born.
Dab.
Zeppelin.
Do you have to ask?
I had
know.
to make
I
sure.
could have just come in at the end of the show.
She did put this album on her list, but Zeppelin was ahead on mine. Born to Run wasn't even a mention. Physical Graffiti. And now the final battle, though, to see who wins the war, will be Physical Graffiti versus
Jan Hammer.
Wish You Were Here. And we'll start with the queen of all things Zeppelin for her choice.
Physical Graffiti. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Two.
Physical Graffiti.
Mr. Young.
Same.
Senior Kulagowski. Everybody else. Dun, 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 dun. So, after the decree of war of 1975, the battle are done and the war has been won by Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti.
Oh, it's a great one. I'm so
What did
happy.
you think of 1975 and this war? Were there albums we forgot? Oh, yes, there were, but let's face it, these were the ones that were in the fight. The Mahavishnu Orchestra, Budgie, Tangerine Dream, The Tubes. Or did they even have a chance? Hell, we even didn't say Miles Davis or Harata, but that might be a stretch and a half. We're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, because we wouldn't be able to do this without YouTube. So we got articles, videos, podcasts coming in April. It's all about albums, bands, artists, anything we can get our hands on. We put them in unique shows like this. Join us next month. It will not be as easy as this one.
Huh?
Rush versus Genesis.
I don't know.
Again,
Okay.
Rush versus Genesis.
Hmm.
Any year.
Tough.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy. And I forgot what that was supposed to say at the end. Anyway, Go Beyond Your Radio. That's the real music appreciation channel. Thanks for watching and happy listening.
Bye.